Actually, I feel at home because this
Okay,
is my
sit
tent.
down. This is quiet time. Obviously, we're having a slight departure from our regular programming today. And as you all know, that after 29 institutes, David is going to be stepping aside as director. And while this is sad news to hear, we understand that there's a time for everything and a season for everything. So this morning, David, we want to take a few moments to honor you for the vision and the dedication you've had for our beloved institute and that you helped create from the ground up. So because David doesn't like surprises, I thought I'd give you a little itinerary for your visit. After my opening remarks, I'm going to ask three people to come and just say a few brief remarks about the Institute for us and after them. And then we'll have a couple of presentations, some mementos for you to have. And then we'll end with a lovely song that we've created for you. It'll be short and sweet. The MPTI, as it was called back then, started in 1983 when Madeline Crouch of World Music approached David about forming a workshop that was intended to be a collaboration between music business and music education. The idea became a partnership that served the dual purpose of informing teachers of the latest teaching materials and also providing an educational environment that promoted renewing experiences for the teaching community. Through the efforts of Madeline and David and others at SMU, the MPTI was born and the first annual institute was held that summer of 1983. What was not recorded in those early days, I'm told, because this was obviously before I was born, there were many happy hours that followed these days of sessions at a jazz bar in the Melrose Hotel. That's true. Those happy hours, I think those must have been the beginning of the friendship and camaraderie that is now such an important part of the institute. A couple of years later, in 1985, World Music closed their doors for business, and it was during this period that a young fellow by the name of Richard was just starting out in the print music business with Brooke Mays. At that time, I had begun a company newsletter that I sent out to teachers, and from time to time, I would have interviews of noted composers in the area. Naturally, I wanted to have David as one of the featured composers, and so I called him and had an interview with him for the newsletter. And this is how we met. Well, to make a long story short, David was so taken by me that he set up a meeting later on with myself and other people at Brooke Mays about forming a partnership between us and SMU. And of course, there was no discussion. We saw the specialness of this institute. So for the next 23 years, the MPTI flourished, and as we grew in numbers, which is a direct result of the wonderful relations we've had, good programming, and the loyalty of the participants. Then in 2008, when we celebrated our 25th anniversary, we had a new beginning. Through the SMU Piano Preparatory Camp, summer camps, the MPTI now offers opportunities for young artists from 6 to 18 with master classes, private lessons, theory classes, and more. And the Young Artists Institute is ably run in the direction of Kathy Lysinger, who is right up there. And as we began this new era, we announced the formation of a new name, one which retained the old MPTI, one we knew and loved, but also embraced and blended in the new. Thus, the new name, National Piano Institute for Teachers and Young Artists. Now, in 2011, we come to another milestone in our history. With David stepping aside as the director, it's appropriate that we pause and remember and think about the many people whose lives have been touched and enriched by not only the Institute, but also by David. Over the years, we've learned from over 75 clinicians. Through the Institute, hundreds upon hundreds of teachers have had their love of teaching challenged, enhanced, and ultimately
ago that, and I think maybe it was David Karp that had the idea of this institute as being one that would be an inspirational forum for the very best ideas in teaching.
Well, being a student of Ashley Montague's Natural Superiority of Women, I have to say I remember that it was your
well, let's give each other equal credit. I was fortunate enough to be in the right place at the right time, working at Women Music Company. And so over a series of lunches that year, we planned the first event. We frequently went to the new Big Wong Chinese restaurant. And all this time later, it's probably now called the old Big Wong. One of our favorite jokes was the fact that you could never find a teapot in a Chinese restaurant that didn't dribble. So my gift to you today is a teapot. Here, a teapot, not a dribble. So, the key to David's very successful career has been that he's always taken a creative and collaborative approach. And I think in these troubled times, I think everyone can take a lesson from David Karp. Michael Kaiser is the president of the Kennedy Center, and he's an arts organization turnaround guru. He states that every successful season depends on three things: great programming to draw in the public, forging partnerships with like-minded organizations, and having the vision to plan for the future. So as we celebrate David's tenure as director of the National Piano Teachers Institute, I think we can all best honor him by renewing our commitment to arts advocacy. Advocacy for music and the other arts in the daily lives of every person. Because I think our future depends on nurturing creativity and collegiality among people of goodwill around the world. And nothing builds that more than our common love of music. So congratulations, David.
I am a music teacher. I was born to be a music teacher. But I took a sabbatical that lasted 12 years. And I worked for IBM all those years. And I took early retirement from IBM, and I thought, I'm going to go back to my first love. But I knew that I'd been away from it for so long that I needed to get my skills back in order. And, of course, I joined MTNA. And in my AMT magazine, I was flipping through one time, and here was an announcement about MPTI, and it was in Dallas, Texas. Well, one of the things I learned at IBM was how important continuing education is. And when I was with IBM, I always tried to plan my continuing education at a spot that I wanted to go. Well, my mom and dad were here. And so I thought, I can go see Mom and Dad every July and write it off as a tax. Sadly, my mom and dad are no longer. But this is my family that I still come to see every July, and it's from the warmth that I get from the people I know here, including Renee. I feel like they are my family. They're not old enough to be my parents by any means. But their guidance, all the wonderful pedagogues and inspirations that I've had keep me coming back. This is my 14th year.